Hey everyone, it's Mike Del Preti. Welcome to Context, where we're having conversations with business leaders about what's changing and not changing in real estate tech. I'm joined today with Nick Boniakowski, Head of Agent Partnerships at Opendoor. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks. So Nick is here in Boulder. He'll be speaking my class afterwards, but I was lucky enough to grab some time to record this. So here we go. So Nick, Head of Agent Partnerships, what does that entail? What does that mean?
Um, Quite a few things. Basically, I lead a team that builds and designs program strategy, is in charge of growth of agent users and agent acquisitions for Opendoor, meaning we look to engage and embrace the agent community to help them power their business and serve more customers. And basically that means bringing Opendoor as an option to their customers, Opendoor as the buyer. So we're looking to design programs, incentives, different ways to basically drive awareness. And my team also oversees partner relationships that we have with the agent community in situations where we may need to serve other business needs. An example might be, during a peak moment in the company when we need to have some homes to sell, some excess capacity. We also oversee the relationships of the partners to help when we need to work with an external brokerage to sell a home or to do anything really that can require an external partner.
Okay, so a lot of that it's revolving around partnership.
Exactly.
So, what's your personal philosophy around what makes a successful partnership?
Yeah, I recently heard this. It's not my own, but it's become kind of my own mantra, and it's this idea that the perfect partnership is one where you could be on either side of the relationship and be just as happy. Now, I think that's a little idealistic. I follow it because I like to always put myself in the shoes of the partner, specifically also in my world where I'm dealing with a lot of competitors who I'm looking to partner with. In real estate, it's one of my favorite things about this business that I've worked in for quite a while now is that we're all competitors, but we're all cooperators. So when I think about the ideal partnership in the real estate space, I'm really looking to create what we call in our team triple wins. And a perfect example of this is one of the first things I heard when I started at Opendoor in this role. In the first few weeks of working in the company, said, I better get to know the agents here. I better get to know the community that we're trying to serve. So I just got in a series of calling agents saying, agents that had worked with us, agents that had expressed some interest but not actually done a transaction with us. And I got a guy on the phone on the third or fourth call, and he told me this story about this listing consultation he had. And it was an old client of his, and the listing he felt was essentially in the bag. Like he knew he was going to get the friend's business. It was a neighbor, 20 years relationship. But as he was going through the presentation, he sensed some stress from this person who was a friend and kind of felt that he wasn't meeting all of the needs. She was answering questions quickly. She wasn't really concerned about the list price, the process. She just seemed very overwhelmed by the general process. And this agent, with no real knowledge of Opendoor or Opendoor for agents, knew what Opendoor was as a concept and said, I can see at the last minute in this listing consultation, he said, I can see that I'm not totally meeting your needs. You seem stressed. Have you considered this option, Opendoor? Now, he said this not realizing that there was a way for him to even work with Opendoor. The seller got up from the table, walked over to a stack of papers, and brought back a printed out preliminary offer from us. And she said, I saw this online on my own. I wasn't quite sure what it is. What do you think about it? That led to a conversation between them about how, it was legitimate, that thousands of people were selling to Opendoor in her state, and he ended up going down the transaction with her. Now, that agent called us very soon after and basically said, how can I avoid that ever happening again? I want to make sure that I know how this works. And we explained Opendoor for agents and ended up having a long-term relationship with this agent, not a very high volume agent, but someone that, has worked with us now for over a year. And I say that story because to me, that is the definition of a great agent partnership, where the agent wins because they have a new option. They have a way to serve this customer that they couldn't meet their needs until they got this option from our partnership. We, of course, benefit because we probably converted a customer that we might not have converted otherwise. And then finally, the customer, most important, got that win. She got a solution to what she needed. She sold to us. So we have that triple win. It's how I think of the ideal partnership, at least in my landscape. A long story to explain a short idea of the triple win.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I think the key point out of that, the salient point for me at least, is the win for the agent, right? It allowed them to get a client that they wouldn't normally get. right? And that's the key of the Opendoor agent partnership. It's not use Opendoor instead of using an agent. It's use Opendoor when you need to use Opendoor, when you need an instant offer, right? You're giving an agent a new tool for their toolbox, a new arrow for the quiver, like whatever sort of metaphor you wanna roll out there. But the idea is it's additive, not trying to replace.
Exactly. And I think there are examples of this in other industries, the way that, tech products solutions exist for both consumers and professionals.
Mm.
I look at tax preparation and I think of TurboTax and I think of the fact that I, as a consumer, may use it on my own, but I know that the CPA that I hire when my taxes are complicated also has a suite of tools built for them to serve me. So you'll see it in financial advisory with different wealth managers that have both platforms for consumers and for businesses. But yeah, it's exactly that. It's meant to be a tool. We know that consumers trust and rely on agents. So we want to empower agents with the same tool that consumers have access to. It's just a great way to bring value to the consumer via that trusted agent.
Yeah. So what do you think is something that not you've been at this actually how long? You've been at Opendoor how long?
I've been at Opendoor for coming up on 2 years in January. I've been in real estate and technology for about over a decade now. I grew up in a real estate family. I'm a third generation broker. It's been in my blood. My first summer jobs were organizing deal files and making sure that our office was running. And I've just studied and loved the business, since the day I was born. I was always fascinated by technology and its impact on the business, which is why I've been a big fan of yours, Mike, because you're a leader in that space, and I followed you for a long time as well. But in being really fascinated by how technology was going to change the industry, it led me to kind of look for outside of my family's operation. And I had a pretty clear path to a comfortable seat in a family office, but it just didn't really excite me. So in the early 2011, 2012 phase, I was talking to my brother, who's a software engineer, about building a startup. And in my discovery mode, he apparently didn't have the confidence in me to back the startup I wanted to build. But I discovered Redfin, and I was an early employee in our New Jersey market, helped build that, led market operations there, and eventually was on our national strategy team, setting our listing strategy, the main way we helped people sell their homes. Worked there for about 7 or 8 years, and then did a brief stint at Anywhere, helping them develop the RealSure product. Left before that really got going because of Opendoor. I knew Opendoor was best in class, and I was just fascinated by what they were trying to do. And specifically, I was hired for this role to help build out the agent partnerships team. And yeah, it's coming up on 2 years, and it's been a blast.
You've been in the industry for a while, and that's a really interesting history. Opendoor, Anywhere, Redfin. What's something you've learned about real estate agents that you didn't know before?
Well, like I said, I grew up around them, right? They put food on my table. So I've had, nothing but respect for the real estate agent's hard work.
But working on the other side, you've been at Redfin, you're at Opendoor, you're trying to work with them. Like you had a preconceived notion from birth, right?
Yep.
What changed in your mind since then?
I guess what's changed, what I've realized in talking to so many agents, I had a very narrow view of how they worked at Redfin and then how they worked at my family business. And now that I've had exposure to the entire country, I've really gotten access to this other side of the agent. I thought of the agent as, okay, they do transactions, they represent clients and sellers, but now I've had more exposure to the agent, the business builder, the entrepreneur. We work with a lot of high volume teams, and I've been blown away by how many different things these top agents and top teams are working on, how many different business lines, how many different marketing opportunities they have going on, and different programs that they're all there to support each other. And it's just been really interesting to see kind of move past this, okay, an agent helps a seller or a buyer buy a house, to no, these are business owners. And as I interact with them to try to integrate Opendoor, it's really been amazing to me to get a sense of how entrepreneurial the agent is, and not just in doing more deals, but in building these massive brands and businesses.
No, that's a good point. What's something you don't think most agents know about Opendoor or the agent partnership program?
Yeah, this has been a big learning. I think in a way I've been a little bit too close to it and focused on the value props of Opendoor. So we go into pitches. We have a field team, a sales team that travels around the country and talks to agent teams. We have a whole deck on why you should consider Opendoor. These are the value props. And I've learned recently that our opportunity is way higher in the funnel, and it's really around awareness and consideration. And recently, I've been asking rooms simply how many people are aware that you as an agent can represent a seller in a sale to Opendoor. And I'm recognizing that we still have a lot of work to do at that point. Before we even get to the value props of why it's a great thing for the seller, simply creating awareness around Opendoor is your option, your tool. It exists. Opendoor for agents is there. So that may sound very simple, but for us, it's been a bit of a learning that we have a lot of work to do in spreading the message, not just around why it's a great tool, but that it is a tool for you as an agent, that Opendoor for agents exists. I mean, I listen to this podcast. I know it's been discussed, this kind of distribution of agents and how many deals they do. And there's clearly a head and tail distribution in that a few teams, a few agents, they do a big chunk of deals, but that tail is very long. And the agent who may be part-time or even full-time, who isn't doing the 50, 100,000 transactions as part of a team, is still very influential in their community. And we have a big opportunity here to educate, both that tail segment and continue to, appeal to the larger teams as well. But yeah, I mean, just that simple idea of just driving awareness when you ask, what are most people not aware of? I'd say it's that simple at this stage. Beyond that, a message that I like to get out there and why we travel around the country is to go over those benefits, the incentives that we've built, the fact that we have a product suite built for agents. We have for partners a set of dashboards and tools that allows them to track and monitor all of the active offers they have with us for their customers and kind of monitor their conversion and see how it's impacting their business. And those are tools that we continue to love to build out with feedback and collaboration with the partners.
So for better or worse, I've been tracking Opendoor for quite a while, since, 2016. And I would say now more than ever before, and maybe over the past 12 months, give or take, I've seen more activity in this space. Opendoor for agents, agent partnership, working with agents, just kind of more and more. I know it's been around for years in one form or another, but it just seems like we've kind of kicked into high gear more recently. So, I mean, how has the program evolved over time?
Yeah, it's a great question. And the timing, you mentioned 2016, 2017, I believe, was the origin of the first time Opendoor for agents was defined as a program. The first time we created, a different tool set and started to build incentives to activate the agent community. And you're right, it has been an evolution and it has expanded. And if I look at it over the last year, there's clearly, and we've done some new things on the marketing side. We've made some updates to our agent access program, which is our loyalty program for agents. And we've continued to test and iterate on the incentive piece. I would say that this stuff has been in flight, as you mentioned. So when you look around in the last year and see it, we've obviously had a bigger presence at Inman. That has been in flight for a couple years now, and it is an evolution. I was hired, I started January 2022. I was hired, towards the tail end of 2021, again, with the goal of we're going to build this partnership out. And you're talking about a time when the market was firing and robust. So I think something that makes it extra pronounced right now, and I know this has been discussed in our recent earnings calls, is just the focus on partnerships juxtaposed against a reduction in overall marketing spend. So when you look at the messaging and we recognize what an opportunity there is with partnerships. So a lot of this has been in flight and been planned. But as we, reallocate and decrease some of the traditional marketing and look towards partnerships as a channel to really drive acquisitions at a, really appealing acquisition cost, it feels even more pronounced than it is. But yeah, I mean, I take that feedback. Are you seeing that as an indication that we're doing something right and that what I was hired to do and brought on to do and the team that we've built is performing? Because we've been working hard at this stuff. It's been in flight for a while, and I'm glad it's showing up. And
Absolutely. I mean, when I first started looking at the industry in 2016, I had a hypothesis that I wanted to test, and it was just how much is technology going to change the space? Why can't I buy and sell a home on my mobile phone? And what became abundantly clear to me, not just in the United States, but around the world, is how central the agent is to the transaction. And you can look at the data for the US market, 90% of buyers and sellers are using an agent to do that. And it's really hard to get them out of there. And it's not technology that's holding it back. It's psychology, right? People want someone, an agent, someone local they know, they see their face on billboards and bus stops and all that, to help them, to hold their hand through the process. So I've always thought not just Opendoor, but like any real estate tech startup or disruptor that's trying to circumvent the agent or not keep them at the center of the transaction is doomed to failure. That's just such an incredible headwind to go against. So why wouldn't you kind of figure out a way to work with agents? And I know Opendoor's flirted with that over the years, but yeah, definitely the past year. I mean, that was the first time I'd seen Opendoor with a booth at Inman. Like that's a big signal, right? It's a big signal. And it definitely seems like there's more and more effort in that space.
Yeah, I mean, I think the assessment is a fair one. I tend to agree. Obviously, my time at Redfin and then sandwiched with my time at Anywhere and now at Opendoor, I've seen it from all sides. I've seen people dissenting on products and solutions that seem to displace an agent or suggest a future without them. And my focus is always on the here and now, and the fact that in 2023, the goal of the partnerships team at Opendoor is to meet the customer where they are. And we're about giving consumers choice. And yes, we want to build products and solutions that allow, you mentioned, an e-commerce platform, buying and selling a home on a phone. That is an awesome vision. It's one that I'm incredibly excited about. But at this moment in time, just recognition, looking at the same statistics you are, that 90% of consumers are trusting, relying on an agent to buy or sell their home. When you just look at the simple facts, recognizing that this advisor is such a valuable part of the process, is the reason why agent partnerships is a big part of the business and something we're really excited about.
So you just announced a really big partnership with EXP last week.
We did.
So why EXP? Why now?
Why now? Why EXP? Great questions. It didn't happen overnight. It's a long time. We've been working on it and had some starts and stops. Some things just impacted purely by macro issues and some just timing. But, we've been talking to leadership. They have been incredibly focused on, being the best, most agent-centric brand. I followed your writings and studies about them, how quickly they've been growing and what that means in terms of overall transactions and agent count. So, they are obviously a natural fit, being cloud-based, very focused on, technology and bringing tools to their agents. And it was just a matter of the right timing for both parties. We both got comfortable, and you talk about what makes a great partnership, but it was accomplished over a long period of time, in my opinion, based on lots of individual moments, individual experiences that our team had with EXP agents. We've built some great relationships with some of their most powerful or our biggest teams.
Mm-hmm.
Those teams are influential. Those teams talk to leadership. Those teams say, hey, I get a lot of value from this. It helps us. So doing the hard work to establish trust. I talked about that idea of competitors becoming collaborators, and that's what has happened here. They've just been laser focused on bringing tools and solutions for their agents, and I think they recognize that Opendoor is a tool for agents that can unlock really the next level of their business. Integrating it into their tool, empowering their Express Outsource platform is valuable.
Do you have a sense, in terms of the value to agents, do you have a sense where there's more value? Is it top of the funnel, like just getting them more people calling them? Or is it more kind of mid to bottom funnel, like closing the deals? Do you know what I mean?
I do, yeah. I hope there's value in both. I think that someone who relies on what I'll just call a bait and switch strategy around marketing, that's been around for years, well before Opendoor. Hey, there's on every block in my town, there's a we buy this house, that house sign. I think that is and remains the most powerful CTA in the business. The idea of, I won't just give you a valuation, I'll give you an exact offer of what I can pay. That's been around, but being able to actually fulfill that offer is really, in my opinion, what unlocks the real meaningful partnership, in full recognition that the cash offer won't be the right solution for every customer listing on the open market, maybe, but having those options, and not just having options, but having a viable option, and having the best in class viable option is a way to actually extract value from both. So yes, you are getting interest in having all of the options, being able to, position that you two have access and a partnership with, a strong cash offer, but being able to back it up with that actual fulfillment of the offer is a vital piece in actually extracting the value.
That's a good point. That's a really
thousands
good answer
and
to that.
Thousands of agents are representing sellers to Opendoor every year. So it is happening, and I'm seeing them be successful integrating it on all parts of the funnel.
Okay. So I'm thinking back, I don't know, a year ago when Opendoor announced the partnership with Zillow, and now last week, Opendoor announced a partnership with EXP. Those are really great press releases, but what does it take to go from a press release to an actual product integration?
Yeah, it's an awesome question, and it's where 90% of my focus will be in this quarter as we gear up towards the actual product integration. We announced, similar to Zillow and other partnerships deals, we announced this partnership, and now we're hard at work standing it up and getting it ready to kick off in early Q1. The important thing here, and the thing that will make this successful, is that we have shared goals. Neither of us are happy with the press release. This, for our partner here in EXP, needs to create value and will create value for their agents. So there's a commitment to make sure that it's seamless and integrated and easy to use for agents. For us, we have a shared commitment to support and drive awareness and distribution within their tool set to every way that we can. So again, that shared goal that the press release in the long run doesn't do much for us, but that we need to collaborate to make it visible and accessible and to really collect feedback. This isn't going to happen overnight. It's probably going to take a little bit of time to get feedback, to really learn from agents. Where can we insert this in the process? What other upgrades or tools do you need to really make this power your business, to make it easy for you to be driving down the street and you're doing a million different things. And I've lived that life of an agent and seen it, to know how we can really make it easy for them.
So we have a little alarm in the background, and now it's gone.
A little distracting.
Both for the Zillow and the EXP partnership, there's a level of product integration that needs to happen. What's the ideal product integration look like?
Yeah, it really starts with the, on the EXP side or the brokerage partner side, a distribution point. So agents, and again, I know this from my experience, they have a million different tools to use. And working in my past life, I know that even when an agent is an employee, it can be difficult to get them to use the tools you create for them. So we need to be focusing on the distribution point, and that is one of the appealing parts about this partnership, that EXP has done that work and continues to invest in the tool set. So agents don't need to go a million different places to find all these different options. They can come to one home base and basically find that. So it is very easy to use. It's in their workflows. And for us, it's about extending our product and integrating it fully into their workflows, not necessarily getting someone to come to this yet another destination for them. So I really think it starts at the distribution point. And from there, many of the lessons that we have, with our consumers or other partnerships, is just make it incredibly simple and easy. Again, I know how many things agents are asked to do or expected to do, how many different pieces of software and product are put in front of them. Agents use software and tools when they provide value, when they're easy, and when they're accretive to their overall business goals. So we have to keep that in mind as we're building, the product integration in that distribution point.
What I'm hearing out of that is seamless integration into existing workflows. And I think that's key. It's not, here's a new website, here's a new login.
That might be my new way of explaining it. So that's perfect.
We got to come up with a different word, because that sounds like businessy buzzwords, right? Seamless integration into your workflows. But that's really what it is, right? What are you already doing? I don't want to give you anything new to do, but where could I put the Opendoor button or the cash offer button?
Yeah. Exactly. And the work that Opendoor has done to develop this instant offer, I don't take for granted. And that is what is going to power and really make it simple and seamless and integrated into their product. The fact that we can, by using all of these data points and the inputs that we get, generate this offer and basically return a final offer within days after that instant offer is going to make that process seamless. It's going to really wow the agents that don't use it already. And I think, the product will really speak for itself when agents have access to it.
So if we think about the past year, 12 months, it's been quite a 12 months. What's a big challenge you've faced?
A big challenge I faced is reconciling what a difficult time it's been for a lot of different people in a lot of different areas. I think that, again, going back to this shift that I've had from a little bit more focused on the Northeast or New Jersey and New York, and then specifically my Redfin past, to the national conversations I have with folks in California, Florida, Texas. I mean, I am getting a different view on what the market is like in every market, but the overall sense is just one of concern and anxiety. The thing that I've witnessed has been being thoughtful about the fact that people have less food to put on the table. I know some people are still thriving, but there is simply a smaller pie right now. So recognizing, the difficulties that agents are going through right now and, trying to present new opportunities and ways to grow their business is a really interesting and appealing conversation to have, but kind of reconciling those with the fact that we're really in unprecedented times with regard to transaction volumes. I came up in my real estate career. Yeah, there were bumps with COVID and things like that, but there's been a pretty consistent upward trend since the financial crisis of, '09 and the recovery through 10, 11, and 12. But a lot of people that I work with, a lot of the people that I've come up with this industry have really only seen the good times. And I'm not saying we're in bad times, but we're certainly in different times. And my father, who remains active in real estate, and one of his favorite sayings is, call me wagon wheels, I've been through it, passed down from my grandfather. I hope now that I'm a father, I do not start saying that. But he won't say that about this time. So just recognition that this time is new with the massive swing in interest rates, the lack of inventory, the fact that it's simultaneously a scary market for buyers, sellers have nowhere to go. Just really reconciling and navigating, that market in the last 12 months has been eye-opening.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing. You've been in the industry for a while, kind of since birth. Is there an opinion you hold of the industry that not many people agree with?
Of the industry, I have a lot of non-industry opinions that I bet a lot of people don't agree with, mostly around food and New York sports teams. But on the industry, like I said, I've been at that intersection of tech and agents and getting agents to embrace technology and run towards it. I have seen that as an opinion that has not been held by a lot of the agent community. And I wouldn't say rooms that I go into are hostile by any means, but when you work at companies that are pushing new product and new solutions forward, it obviously can lead to, some interesting conversations, a lack of trust and some kind of skepticism around what you're doing. But the most successful brokers that I know and the most successful teams that I've met while working at Opendoor are a small segment of the overall industry that is proactive in integrating new technology and solutions. It's an opinion that I've held since the very first day I got my license. As I mentioned, comfortable chair, running a real estate office could be and probably it is a good way to make a living and to help customers. But the unconventional path that I've gone really to run away from that and towards the I don't like to use the word disruption, but towards the new solutions has been an unpopular way of operating in the business, at least from my background throughout. That's kind of run through my whole career.
Yeah, I think that's fair. If you think about the 1.4 million realtors out there, it'd be fair to say that the majority of them have a generally disfavorable opinion of companies that you've worked at.
Yeah, and I get it. I think that real estate agents, like many people in sales professions, get a bad rap. But I call several real estate agents my best friends. I have seen customers and experienced customers crying based on the service that I can provide or my team provides. I know at the end of the day that everyone, despite their overall thoughts around the agent community, has a trusted agent in their life, someone they can go to. And I say that because I think that agents, by and large, get lumped in and there are a lot of threatening products and solutions that roll out, and they're on the defensive for that reason. So I totally understand and sympathize there. What I will say is that we talked about numbers and how agents remain a fixture in the real estate transaction. Own that, run towards these new tools, use them to your advantage. I am seeing, again, colleagues and peers do it, maybe at smaller numbers, but these are folks that are running massive teams. I mean, I can tell you we have relationships with some of the biggest and best teams at every market that we operate in, and they run towards these things instead of away from them.
What? Yeah. No, I mean, this isn't, I don't mean this to be a commercial for Opendoor, but I've said this for years, right? If you're a real estate agent, why wouldn't you put these new tools in your toolbox? Right? Why wouldn't you do that? If you're a financial advisor and somebody's coming to you and they want to invest some money and they're like, I want to invest in crypto. And you say, no, I don't do that. I don't do crypto. Like, what do you think's going to happen, right? You're going to lose that customer.
Yeah.
They're going to go to the financial advisors that do let you invest in crypto.
I think it's a great analogy as long as we can disconnect any comparison between Opendoor and crypto. But no, I agree. I mean, it's there. It's there. And like I've said, I've been explaining and I travel around the world to say it's there for you. So use it.
Cool. All right. Well, that's about it for us today. Any final thoughts?
No, I appreciate it. I'm on a crusade to let agents know about Opendoor for agents. Obviously, we're incredibly excited about the EXP partnership, but I will continue traveling around the country with our team and letting agents know about us. And like I said, reach out. The thing we want the most at this point is feedback on how we can help agents, build their business and serve their customers. So I'd encourage anyone listening, any agents who have thoughts, please reach out.
Awesome. No, that's good. So yeah, I imagine if you want to know more, just go to Google and type in Open Door for Agents. You
Yep.
can probably find me or Nick online and shoot us an email. But awesome. No, I appreciate your time, Nick. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Mike.
This is great. And thanks everybody for listening. This is Mike. You're listening to Context. You can go to my website, mikedp.com, for more research, articles, and podcasts. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks.